Have you ever lived in a house that had a room no one was allowed to talk about? A room that no one would even dare to look at? What if I told you that my family had one of those rooms? And one night, when I couldn't resist anymore, I opened that door. What I found inside was something I will never be able to forget. Stay with me until the end, because this is a story you will never look at your own home the same way again. I used to think our house was just normal. At least that's what I convinced myself for the years. It was an old house, one of those big, creaky ones with a long hallway and floors that always seemed to groan beneath your feet. It had its quirks, sure, but that's what made it feel like home, right? But there was one thing about that house that never quite made sense. One thing that would send a chill down my spine every time I thought about it. That one room. You know the kind I'm talking about, don't you? The room that's always there, but no one ever talks about it. You can feel it. You can sense it in the air when you walk by it. The door at the end of the hall always closed, always locked. And when I was younger, I had so many questions. Why was it locked? Why didn't anyone ever speak about it? It's like everyone knew not to even acknowledge it. I remember being a kid and asking my mom about it once. Just a casual question. Mom, what's in that room? She went pale. I thought it was weird, but she just gave me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It's a room for grown-ups, she said quickly, turning away. But I wasn't stupid. I could feel the tension in her voice. Something was off. Then there was my dad. He was a man of few words, but there was this look in his eyes whenever I would walk too close to that room. I swear I saw fear in his eyes. And trust me, my dad wasn't the type to be scared of anything. And so, as a child, I was taught not to ask questions. Don't go near the room, don't think about it, and for sure, don't ever open that door. But you know how it is when you're told not to do something. It makes you want to do it even more. Have you ever had that feeling? You know that one. The one that says, I shouldn't do this, but I have to. That feeling stayed with me for years. It was a stormy night, raining heavily. The kind of a storm that makes you want to stay under a blanket and forget about the world. My parents had gone out for the night, and my brother had gone to a friend's house. I was alone. The house eerily silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the wind howling outside. I was sitting on the couch in the living room, staring out the window, trying to ignore this strange sensation that had settled over me. What do you think it is about silence that makes everything feel so wrong? The wind picked up, rattling the windows, and that's when I felt it. A chill ran down my spine, and my heart started to race. I couldn't stop thinking about that room. The room that had been off limits my entire life. And for some reasons, that night, the desire to open that door became almost unbearable. I stood up from the couch, my body moving before my mind could fully catch up. My feet carried me down the hallway, past the other rooms, to the door at the end, the door I had never once dared to touch. I paused, staring at the old warm wood. The door didn't look anything special, but there was something about it. The brass handle was cold, ever through the layers of my jacket. I could feel my pulse in my throat as I reached out to grab the handle. But then I hesitated. What if I wasn't ready for what I would find? Have you ever had that feeling where you know you should stop, but you can't? I didn't know why, but I had to open that door. I had to see for myself what had been hidden for all these years. The door creaked as it opened. The dim light from the hallway barely illuminated the room inside. It was a small, cramped, even. The first thing I noticed was the dust. Thick layers of it coat everything. The air was stale, as though the room hadn't been touched in years. And as I stepped inside, I could feel the weight of something heavy pressing down on me. It wasn't just the dust. No, it was something else. Something darker. My eyes scanned the room, trying to make sense of it. There were old, dusty bookshelves lining the walls, their contents hidden beneath layers of time. A small desk sat in the corner, covered in papers that looked like they hadn't been disturbed in decades. And in the center of the room was a large chest. The chest was old, ancient even. It looked like something out of a horror movie, curved with its strange symbols, and the wood was cracked and withered. It almost seemed like the chest was waiting for me. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you weren't alone, even though no one was there? I felt that. I could feel the air shift, thickening around me as I approached the chest. Should I open it? Would I regret it? But something urged me on. Something deep inside said, you need to know. You have to know. And so, with a trembling hand, I lifted the lid of the chest. Inside, I found hundreds of photographs, old ones. Some of them were familiar, family photos from when I was younger. But there were others, photos I had never seen before. My parents standing outside the house, but with their faces blank. No expression, just empty, like someone had erased them. I felt a cold sweat break out on my neck as I dug deeper into the chest. More photographs, but something was wrong. There were images of my brother and me, and in the background of every single one, there were shadows. Strange black shapes like people, but distorted, unnatural. They seemed to be watching us. It didn't make sense. Why were these pictures here? Why didn't I know about them? And then, buried underneath all the pictures, I found a journal. It was old, the pages yellowed with age, the cover cracked and worn. I opened it, and the first entry was dated over 50 years ago. The man who had written it described seeing strange things happening in the house. Objects moving on their own, whispers in the walls, and something lurking in the shadows, something it couldn't escape. But the intrigues grew more frantic. The man's handwriting became almost illegible, but the last words stood out. I've tried to leave, but I can't. I'm trapped here. The house won't let me go. It never will. I froze. I felt the words deep into me like poison. Just then, I turned around, and that's when I saw it. A mirror on the far wall. One I had never noticed before. It was framed in dark, aged wood, the glassy, foggy, and cracked. And as I stared at it, something caught my eye in a reflection. At first, I thought I saw my own face, but then there was movement behind me. A shadow. I spun around, but the room was empty. Did you feel it? The tension? The horror? It was like the room itself was alive, breathing, watching me. The feeling of being hunted crept into my veins. Suddenly, the room felt smaller. The walls seemed to close in on me. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut with a force that nearly knocked me off my feet. The whispers started, low at first, like a distant murmur, but soon they grew louder, closer, and that's when I heard it, the scratching, something scraping at the walls. I ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. The knob wouldn't budge. I was trapped. In the reflection of the mirror, I saw a figure. It wasn't mine. It was tall, dark, and had glowing red eyes. I wasn't alone. Finally, the door burst open. I stumbled out of the room, gasping for air. The whispers didn't stop. They followed me, echoing in my mind. I knew the house was never the same again. The room was still there, but I've never gone near it again. But sometimes, when the wind howls outside and the house is quiet, I hear those whispers again. And sometimes, just sometimes, I feel like